Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Let's do it. What are some crazy, creepy things that have happened to you that could have a plausible explanation, but you still don't understand? Please remember to like, share, hype, look for shoutouts, and ask for one yourself, and subscribe. A few years back, I lived with my mother and German Shepherd in a 2-bedroom rented townhome. I got home from work one day and went about my daily routine. When it came time to eat dinner, I knocked on my mom's door to come and eat. I smelled cigarette smoke and heard her grunt a response, so I went back down and ate alone. I figured I would just put a plate away for her. Fast forward to about 2 a.m., I'm awoken by someone holding my hand and gently shaking it. I immediately shoot straight up and look around. My dog, who is overly protective and sleeps with me every single night, isn't in bed. She isn't even in the room. She most definitely was on my bed when I went to sleep. I sleep with the bedroom door shut and locked. She's scratching at my closed and locked bedroom door from the hallway. Frantic, I bolt for the door, let her in, and she's searching the whole room. I'm now yelling for my mother. No answer. I force my dog to walk down the hallway with me. I still smell cigarette smoke. I bang on my mom's door, no answer. So I just open it. She isn't even home. The bed is made and her TV is off. My dog and I search the whole entire house. Nothing is out of place. All the doors and windows are still locked. I was freaked out, to say the least. The next day I called my mom, and she told me she left early the day before to go visit my sick grandfather. I used to have a penchant for wandering around abandoned buildings when I was in high school. One time, a friend and I decided it would be a good idea to explore a farmstead that hadn't been in use for years. The whole experience was really bizarre. The farmstead was accessible by a long gravel road that brought you to a cluster of dilapidated buildings around a central barn. We parked at the end of the gravel road, near the turnoff to the main road, so we could walk around the property and just pull out quickly later. We went into the barn first, and there were deer bones arranged in a circle around the skull, and a bunch of blankets and wood stacked in a corner of the room. We thought it was really cultish and weird, noped out, and started walking back to the car. Halfway down the gravel road, we heard crunching, heavy footsteps, and someone screeching behind us, blood-curdling screeching. We sprinted back to my car and tried to peel out of there as fast as possible, but it had snowed the night prior, and my back tire was stuck in a puddle of melted snow. My friend was screaming because she was so freaked out, but wouldn't turn to look at the path behind us. By the time I had gotten the car unstuck, she turned around to see if there was someone following us, and there was no one there. I could have been a bird or something, but we both swear up and down to this day that someone was following us. I actually thought I was going to die that day. To preface, I'm a suburban city boy. I've always lived surrounded by people and lights, so I visited my ex-mother-in-law in rural Georgia over the summer a couple years back. We're talking deep rural South, no light pollution, so you can see 1 billion stars and the actual Milky Way across the sky. Well, the night I went, it was one of those slim crescent moons, so it was even darker than normal. I can't see my hand at the end of my outstretched arm, levels of dark. I'm walking their little rat dog around the yard, along the edge of the forest, and I'm probably 200 yards from their little trailer, which is the only source of light beside my flashlight. This little rat dog stops dead in his tracks and starts trembling. He looks up at me with his bug eyes popping out. I hear a rustle of leaves and a twig snap, maybe 20 feet to my left. I scoop the rat up and start power walking back to the house, looking in all directions with the flashlight. Once I get halfway back, I hear a blood-curdling high-pitched scream from hell. It sounded like a woman was getting stabbed. Oh shit, this is some Hills Have Eyes shit and I'm gonna die. I ran as fast as I could back to the trailer. Ex-mother-in-law told me it was probably a bobcat. They scream like that all the time, apparently. This one is kind of creepy, but also kind of comforting. This story was told to me by my grandmother, who is a no-nonsense kind of broad, so I believe every word of it. My grandma had a neighbor or friend who unfortunately lost her husband when she was young, about 40 or so years ago. It was a sudden death, cardiac arrest, or something like that. So this woman was so upset because for a couple of years after his death, she couldn't dream of her husband. For some reason, it really bothered her that she couldn't experience a dream with him in it, almost like she wanted it for the comfort. Anyway, some time passes, and this woman is preparing to sell her house and move closer to her kids. They lived a state over. Suddenly, she gets her wish. She starts dreaming, and her husband is in them. She has multiple of these dreams, and in every one, her husband wakes her up, sits her on the bed, and starts speaking to her. However, his speech horrified her. It was described to me as backwards or garbled. I imagine it to be something similar to the way Twin Peaks characters speak in the Black Lodge. So yeah, pretty goddamn creepy. She can't make a single word out. A few days before she's about to move out for good, she goes to bed and dreams of him again. The dream is the same, except she understands one word he says. He grabs her in the dream and repeatedly says rafters, almost seeming panicked. She wakes up rattled but returns to sleep. The next day, as she's finishing up packing in the basement, she looks up and sees the rafters. She remembers the dream and is compelled to reach into them. She does and pulls out thousands of dollars worth of World War II bonds her husband had purchased without her knowledge. She swears he never told her about them, so he appeared in her dream to tell her she wouldn't leave all those bonds behind when she sold the house. Story still gives me chills today.
Good stuff as always, and I do like this topic because it's a little more broad-based. You can get a little bit of everything in here. I scale more towards the hiker, forest, creepy conspiracy stuff, personally, but I like all of it. Also, Andrea Harp. This is my favorite part of the day, too, if you can imagine that. So, thanks again, everybody, and we love the support. Keep it up, and don't be shy. We're here for you, so see you soon.
When I was younger, my mom, my grandma, and I liked to go to this little frou-frou tea shop that was about 40 miles from our home. It was a cute little place where you could get the classic tea and sandwiches and cute little desserts and all. One time we went, all was normal, but on the way home we received a call that my other grandma had passed away. Very sad, but as she had been battling cancer, not exactly unexpected. The next time we went a few months later, on the way home we received a call that my uncle had died suddenly of a heart attack. Creepy coincidence for sure, but we still did not think too much of it at the time. We went back a third time a few months after that, and for the third time on the way home, we received a phone call that somebody had died. This time it was my grandpa's brother. We never went back to that tea shop again. Now all of these people were elderly and not exactly in the best of health, so them passing away around the same time was not exactly creepy. But the fact that 3 separate times that we went to this place, 3 people died the same day, and we received the calls on the way home, makes me think something about that place was cursed. It has since closed, but I'm still nervous to even go to that area to this day. So this is going on as we speak, but let's take you back a couple of months to when it all started. One nice warm day, end of August, early September, I go outside and find this little ball of fur or feathers, hair, and a dangling earring hooked in on my porch. Weird, I thought. I brought it up to my husband and said that there was some weird juju shit on our porch, and it freaked me out. I was not touching it, but it needed to go. He suggested that it was a nice gift from the tomcat next door, or something that our dog dragged home. My dog has never done that before, but hey, a way more logical reason than someone leaving weird juju shit on our porch, cool. Then last week, this fully intact lower mandible bone of a white-tailed deer shows up on our porch in the exact same place as where the hair feather fur ball was placed. Again, I asked my husband about it, and he says that the dog must have brought it with him. Again, something that's never done but logical. I still wasn't going to touch it. The weird fur feather earring ball was still fresh in my mind, and if someone was leaving weird shit on that porch, I wasn't going to touch it. Thanks for taking that danger on, hun. It stayed on the porch for a while. Yesterday, I was studying, facing my front door. Around lunchtime, my dog starts freaking out, and I look up, and there's this older, disheveled-looking lady, I think, on our porch, who I had never seen before, walking toward our front door. She leaves something on the bench we have out there and turns around and walks away. After a beat, I get up to grab whatever pamphlet she left on our porch, except she didn't leave a pamphlet. She came onto our porch, took the lower mandible bone and moved it onto the bench, right in the middle of two posts of the porch fence, right in line with a bright ray of sunshine. So now I'm pretty convinced that there is someone leaving weird shit on our porch, and here's hoping we're not cursed. I was in a major car accident over a decade ago. My car was hit by another car in such a way where I lost control of the car. The car somehow went full circle in the highway. I T-boned a Jersey wall, completely destroying it and cracking the next two in line, and I bounced off that onto an off-ramp with my side of the car facing traffic. I'm about to exhale when I hear, "Hey kid, when I start counting, you have 8 seconds to move your car or you're going to be hit by an 18-wheeler. Do you understand? 8, 7, 6. Voice didn't have to tell me twice. I threw my car into drive and got it onto the shoulder. At 1, an 18-wheeler drove by the spot my car was parked on. I should have died. According to the cops surveying the crash site later, but I walked away with a few bruises and needed a root canal a few days later. I probably imagined the voice, but damn, I'm believing it was something otherworldly. Here's my best. Would love a plausible explanation. By the way, this is back when I lived in New Zealand. Working home forest at night. With a friend at like 2 a.m. Don't even ask. We were about 14. We were having a good time, talking, etc. When out of nowhere, our friend shows up and starts talking to us. Our friend started chatting with us, and I felt a really strong sense of euphoria. This friend knew both of our names, and things that he shouldn't have, like exact details of inside my room and things that happened to me before I moved into this country. Then he was just gone, and we both collapsed, physically exhausted. It was then that we realized that we had never met this friend, and we were still 10 kilometers from town and another 2 kilometers from our campsite. We just lay there for so long, recovering. I never actually properly saw my friend. I kind of just knew he was with us, and I can't recall his voice either. All I remember is him asking to take us to his house. Just turn left. My real friend luckily had the sense to not let it go. That left turn led to this unfenced lookout with like a 5-meter drop to rocks. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had listened. Scary shit. My wife has told me that very occasionally I talk in my sleep in some other language. She has no idea what I'm saying, but the language sounds a little bit familiar to her. When smartphones became a thing, she recorded me one time. I listened to it the next day, and at first I thought it was an Italian since some of the sounds and cadences were similar. I don't know Italian, so that seemed really odd. I shared it with a colleague who grew up with Italian. Turns out I was speaking Latin, which he had learned as a student. I studied a bit of Latin as a kid. It's long gone now, although I can recognize some words and know some Latin conjugations. He said that as far as he could tell, it was pretty grammatically correct, and that I was talking about a mountain and a lake. Weird as hell. About a year before my son was born, my boyfriend's father died. I had never met boyfriend's father, but heard stories of his twisted sense of humor and how he liked to screw with people. My boyfriend was not particularly close with his dad. We lived in North Carolina, and his dad had taken off to Seattle when my boyfriend was young. I don't think boyfriend really grieved until our son was born, and he realized that his dad would never meet him. That hit him hard. Over the first month of caring for our newborn, we started to notice screws that had fallen out of the household items: kitchen chairs, towel rack, screen door, outlet cover, the most random shit. More than a dozen loose screws in the span of a week. Kinda weird, but we were sleep-deprived parents and didn't really have the mental stamina to waste trying to figure it out. One day, we're chilling in the living room and a screw falls out of the light fixture and lands in my boyfriend's lap. He starts laughing hysterically, so hard he can't breathe. When he finally calms down enough to tell me what set him off, he holds up the screw and says, "I finally get it. My dad is screwing with me." Never had a loose screw since. So as a youngster, me and my brother were staying up late playing video games since we didn't have school the next morning. It was maybe 3 a.m. when we decided to shut it down and get in bed. My room was at the end of the hall while my brother's was right next to mine. After we shut it off and put the controllers away, we both hear these heavy, slow footsteps coming from the kitchen. The kitchen was the only room without carpet, so they sounded pretty ominous. We gave each other a look, and I called out down the hall, "Dad?" Well, then the footstep sounds trailed back toward our laundry room and stopped. That's also where our basement door is. Well, we knew something wasn't right, so we both start yelling for our mom and dad, and they come rushing to us all sleepy and confused, and we frantically explain what we heard. My dad goes and checks it out and tells us that all the doors are still locked and closed, and there wasn't anything showing anyone was in the house. Plausible explanation could be that it was just a murderer that broke in and scurried off when we called out, but I always wondered, what if it was a murder ghost instead? Used to do hospice home care. People who are actively dying see shit. Thing is, it's almost always friends or family who have passed before. Angels or demons, never like a random dog or a kid they never met or a plate of spaghetti. The rational explanation, it's cultural. Even if you're not a believer, everyone hears stories about white light and beckoning relatives and angels and demons. So that's what people see when their oxygen levels drop and their bodies are shutting down and they start hallucinating. The explanation that scares the shit out of me, someone with one foot in this world and one in the next can see things I can't. The scariest one was a man who seemed totally lucid. Normally, dying people don't make tons of sense and will occasionally say something like, "My son is here, do you see him?" And then back to nonsense. This guy was otherwise in his right mind, except he was telling me about his wife, who was sitting at the end of his bed, and she had her dyed hair again, despite him always liking her natural gray. But at least she had on a blue dress she always looked so good in. He had a perfectly rational conversation with her about how he missed her, but the doctor said he would see her soon, and not to worry. He wasn't scared. He knew he was a very old man and no one lives forever. Part of me thinks he was just having a different experience of death or hallucination. Part of me thinks he was fucking with me. Part of me believes she was there. I just couldn't see her because I'm not dying. I always worried one day I would be able to see what they saw. What then, huh? Context: my grandfather was a truck driver and taught me everything I knew about driving, especially in snow. I used to work at a drugstore, and one night I was closing another store in our chain, and we had a snow squall that unexpectedly dropped a few inches of snow in our area. I wasn't very familiar with the area, and I had my mom's car, so I wasn't used to the car either. The snow was still coming down and I couldn't see, so I was creeping home, and panicking as I saw cars spinning out all around me. All of a sudden, I saw a light in my passenger side view mirror, and I turned my head, and sitting in the passenger seat, plain as day, I saw my dead grandfather. I heard him say he knew that I wasn't freaked out by a little snow, and then I heard his voice rattling off all the things he taught me about driving in the snow. I looked back toward the road, and then he was gone. It was a calming experience. When I saw him, it was more, okay, Pop's here, I'm okay, instead of, oh my God, you're supposed to be dead, what the... And I stopped panicking and got home without a problem. It was most likely just my brain eyes or whatever playing tricks on me to stop panicking, but to this day, it still freaks me out. Personally, I've had an extremely strange experience, and I don't know whether to chalk it up to my 12-year-old brain at the time, or if it actually was of the paranormal nature. My best childhood friend used to live in this house that was technically two houses merged into one. Both were very old. The first night that I ever slept over, he told me about how a woman who lived in one of the houses lost her mind one day and drowned her children in a basin in the back many years ago. It was around 4 a.m., and I woke up in the middle of the night needing a drink of water. I came out of his bedroom, passing the staircase that leads to the second floor on my right, and walked out into the kitchen. On my way back to his room, for some reason, I stopped dead in my tracks at the foot of the stairs, which I hadn't really been looking at in my haste to make it back to his room. I turned my head to look at them, and instead of a staircase leading up to the second floor, there was a set of stairs going downwards on an intense angle into what looked like nothingness. It was pitch black. I stood there for what felt like 20 minutes, just gazing into the abyss that was before me. That wasn't there before. My brain didn't even register it as strange. That's when I heard an ear-piercing, it sounded like it came from inside of my head, woman's voice scream, "No!" Needless to say, I looked it back to his room, and haven't really said anything about it since it happened. The weird thing is that I can remember it like it was yesterday, even though so many years have passed, and I've probably forgotten about more important events since then. Just thought I'd share. A couple of weeks ago, I was laying in bed trying to go to sleep, and I hear my TV come on. I lay in bed a few more seconds, hoping to hear my fat-ass cat jump off the coffee table. I get up and go to the living room, and said fat-ass cat is posted up on a table by the window and nowhere near the TV remote. The way my house is set up, my bedroom is behind the living room, and my living room TV is perpendicular to the wall, not parallel. So, I walk up to the back of the TV, and right when I get next to it, it shuts off. Glow of the screen disappears, sound stops, I'm 100% freaked out, so I unplug it. I go lay back down in bed. My heart is still going thump, 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 and I'm trying my best to pretend everything is A-okay. So I lay there a few more minutes, and then I hear more goddamn noise from the living room. I'm so freaked out I get my stun baton out to go check out the new noise, because I might be able to tase a poltergeist. I poke my head into the living room. The TV definitely isn't on. I listen for a few seconds and realize this noise is coming from my laptop. The laptop I haven't opened in probably 2 weeks. I lift the lid on it, and the attachment has decided to open itself and start running pop-up ads. I mute the laptop, go back to bed, and lay in bed awake until 4 a.m. In the morning, I'm texting my boyfriend about it. He does so, Googling. Turns out, almost dead TV remote batteries can send garbage signals that the TV will interpret as the on signal. I've had my TV since 2011, and the remote still has Vizio branded batteries. I still don't have a good explanation for the laptop. About 4 years ago, we heard my grandmother fell and hit her head, and she wasn't going to make it. We drove 4 hours south to get to see her one last time. My mom was distraught. She was riding back with some other family. My sister had to drive us home. We were pulled off on the side of the road. I can't remember what we were doing over there, but we were waiting for cars to pass so we could hang a U-turn. I turn around and look and see a car approaching. My sister then says, "I'm going to hit this car." I thought she was messing around or something. Then as the car starts to pass us, my sister hits the gas and swerves into it. Amazingly, we didn't actually hit it. That other driver had insane reflexes and swerved around us. Didn't even honk or stop. My sister instantly started to freak out and said she didn't see it. I was confused. I told her what she told me, but she had no memory of saying that. She then burst into tears, saying she didn't see it, and she didn't say that, but my brother in the back seat confirms we both heard her say it. To this day, we don't know what happened. She still claims she didn't say that or see the car.